K-Squid, 90.7 and 89.7 FM.
Have you ever walked on the beach and stepped on a bottle cap or some other piece of trash and thought, who put that there? That's so careless. And maybe you picked it up. Hopefully you did and didn't walk past it. It's a common experience on our area's beaches, all too common. And coming up this weekend is the Great Coastal Cleanup. It's been going on for a number of years, and we're going to talk with Katie Thompson, Director of Save Our Shores, about this annual coastal cleanup that is not just in Santa Cruz and Monterey. It's not just in California. It's worldwide. So if you're listening from Hungary or anywhere else in California, we'll tell you how you can go to the beach and not just sit around looking at the waves or the surfers, but you can make the beach a better place for the creatures, including the squids, which K-Squid definitely appreciates. Welcome, Katie, Director of Save Our Shores. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so coastal cleanup, not just a local phenomenon. Tell us, how long has it been going on?
Yeah, so Save Our Shores has been the coordinator of annual coastal cleanup for 41 years now, and we coordinate the beaches in Santa Cruz and Monterey counties, and that's part of the statewide effort that's run by the California Coastal Commission, also been running for 40 years. And that's part of the larger international effort organized by the OSHA Conservancy that's been around for now 40 years. So it's been a multi-decade cleanup day, and we've seen a lot of trash picked up out of our environment.
You know, it's kind of the end result of a long series of processes where someone goes to a fast food restaurant, perhaps, has a bag in their car, they throw it out the window, maybe it goes in a river, and then it ends up on the beach, or maybe they take it to the beach and don't find the recycling containers. So I'm curious, like over the years, since you've been doing this a long time as an organization, what have you seen as far as changes? Is it more stuff going out there than used to be? Are we keeping up? Is it going down in some respects?
So unfortunately, there's not necessarily a general trend in decreasing trash that we're finding. It's more of the shifting of the types of trash that we're finding. So we find that the more volunteers are out there, the more trash we find. So this year, we're hoping for more volunteers to find more trash. But depending on the policies in place, depending on the location, will depend on the type of trash we find. So, for example, in Santa Cruz and Monterey counties, before their plastic bags were an issue. But due to advocacy efforts and the banning of those products, we've seen a significant drop in that type of trash. But that's been replaced by other types of trash. Particularly on beaches, we find a lot of cigarette butts. We find a lot of kind of those plastic wrappers from food packaging. We don't necessarily find a lot of straws like we used to because of policies or businesses taking proactive actions to actually reduce those in their restaurants. So unfortunately, there's still trash out there. It just depends on the type of trash.
There's been efforts over the years to ban cigarette butts, ban the butt. It was a campaign. Back when I worked for Bill Monning, it was just an idea, but hadn't been turned into a campaign. Tell us about cigarette butts and their particular problem as a piece of trash.
Cigarette butts are a big problem. Globally, they're the number one piece of litter found on streets, in rivers, on oceans, and that's the same that we find in the beaches here in Monterey Bay. They are everywhere. Even though smoking rates are low, we continue to find them everywhere. And they're an issue because the cigarette filters are made out of plastic. They also soak up the 9,000 nasty chemicals that come out of cigarettes when people smoke them. So they're really a toxic hazard, much more than any type of trash we're finding. And they continue to be the number one identifiable item we find on our beaches. So if we want to do something about toxic trash on our beaches, cigarette butts is the most logical target. And the county and the cities in our areas have recognized that. Last October of last year, the county passed an ordinance to ban the sale of filtered tobacco products. The city of Santa Cruz followed that and passed a similar ordinance in June. And just last week, I'm happy to say that Capitola did the same. They listen to their constituents. They know that this is an issue, and we're tired of seeing the trash on our beaches.
Well, and anyone who has a baby, and they know they'll pick up anything and eat it. And that's,
exactly,
not only are our children being exposed to these toxics, but the wildlife thinks that they're fish or, they're edible, and that can cause a lot of problems, I understand, when, for example, birds will come diving in.
Yeah, and then the big tobacco puts on us to clean up their waste. And so, we have a lot of children, a lot of families that join our cleanups because they're passionate about their environment. Do we really want them to be picking up somebody else's problem?
It's a really, it's not a complex issue, but it's a problematic issue because of how many stream sources of different types of waste come into our rivers and bays. Let's talk logistics for a moment. And I want to go back to some of the data again, just to see, you talked about certain types of waste. But I want to talk about how someone who has never been to a cleanup might get involved. Can you just show up at a beach with your gloves?
So we recommend that people go to our website, saveourshores.org, and there'll be a banner there for you to click on to sign up for the annual coastal cleanup. There's an easy form to fill out, and it lists all the beaches because there's 58 different sites across Monterey and Santa Cruz County, and the ones we have listed are the ones that need the most help, the most volunteers. And so we recommend you sign up so we know that you're showing up, and there at the site we provide you with all the materials that you would need. So the gloves, there'll be trash bags, there'll be data cards where we're collecting data on the type of trash you're picking up, and there'll be a site lead there to really make sure you're having a safe and fun experience.
Yes, you don't want to get poked by a needle or any horrible piece of glass or anything like that, so wear sturdy shoes. That's Saturday, am I correct?
Yes, that's Saturday. And
the 20th.
The 20th, Saturday 20th. Yes, this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Like I said, we have 58 sites. Right now we have 833 volunteers signed up, but we're hoping for at least 1,200. So please help us make that mark. Like I said, the more volunteers we get out there, the more trash we remove out of the environment.
And your timing is great. Has it always been in September because it's kind of after the summer crowds have petered out a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always in September. And so we find that it's a good time to continue to get people out on our beaches, make a big impact before the winter storms and rains.
And the winter storms would wash it all into the bay, right? So that's another reason why you're doing it before the rains come.
Yes, most definitely. It's helpful.
I've read about, technological fixes like screens in front of rivers to catch some of that, but that can also block fish. Are those actually useful? I've seen pictures like, look, we caught all this trash, but you have to maintain and clear it out, right?
Yeah, they're expensive. You have to maintain them. And while they are effective to some extent, they also could harm the natural environment. We're really focused more on upstream solutions like the banning of the cigarettes, so really stopping it at its source so that, again, the governments and the nonprofit groups aren't tasked with cleaning up the systemic problem of waste that we have in this country.
The bag ban was a huge fight. I mean, for years, the plastics and oil companies put huge numbers of dollars figuring that, if Santa Cruz passed it, that would be the end and it would get copied, which is
exactly what happened. Yeah, Santa Cruz was a model. They were very bold. They were one of the first in the states to implement a ban on plastic bags. That was picked up by other jurisdictions in the state, ended up being picked up by the state. California was the first state in the country, and so other states in the country then picked it up. Now a lot of places around the world also have plastic bag bans, and so it's a true example of grassroots effort. And again, driven by the data, we are finding these plastic bags in our environment. We know plastic is bad for our health, so let's change that. And we're hoping to do the same with the cigarette ban.
There's a lot of information that's just now coming out about microplastics. What do you know about that? I've heard that they can even get into people's breast milk. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. What can you tell us about why we need to stop these plastics before they end up breaking down?
Yeah, so we're just at the forefront of understanding what are the long-term impacts of microplastics. Like you said, they're being found in our food, in our bodies, disrupting basic biological processes that we depend on to survive. And so when a plastic breaks down in the environment, it's truly not breaking down. It's just basically breaking down into smaller plastics or to microplastics, so things that our eyes can't see. And we think that Monterey Bay is relatively immune to that and serene environment, but the Monterey Bay, there's been studies of the massive amounts of microplastic we find in every level of the water column in the bay. So it's quite scary, mostly because there's a lot we don't know, and it's particularly in terms of the long-term effects, not only on humans, but on the animals.
I heard there was even microplastics found like in the Arctic and toward the South Pole, where you'd never think any trash would be.
Yes, areas where you think there would never be trash, but they break down, they travel with the currents, they travel with the wind. It's quite scary.
Well, I hope we learn more, and thanks to science, we're learning what we've done and maybe how to stop it in the future. From building up even further. I was discouraged when I did hear that there was an international gathering about plastics, and it didn't reach a conclusion. They were trying to come up with a treaty, an international treaty similar to other big treaties that govern how the world is going to deal with a problem. I don't know if you followed that, but yeah. I was sort of crestfallen when I heard that the oil companies sort of bombed it.
Yeah. A lot of groups were really heartbroken because a small jurisdiction, even just one country, can implement bans or policies surrounding plastic production, but it needs to be a global effort because, as I say, the ocean knows no boundaries, and so we really have to work together. And so when we talk about implementing a policy, even this ban on the filtered tobacco products, our thinking is always regional approaches because we have to work across boundaries in order for it to be truly effective. But it is hard to bring every country in the world to the table to come up with a plan. But there are people out there fighting the good fight in order to make it happen.
And I know that the world's children really are depending on those people to make the future survivable for them and something where they'll be healthy on through their adult life. Well, back to the coastal cleanup, which is what we're primarily here to talk about, Katie Roger. What are some surprising, weird things you might have found on the beach during your many times out there during a coastal cleanup event, which, by the way, is happening Saturday, folks, 9 to noon?
Yeah, so we find a lot of strange things. So every year we have kind of the most strange item found. Last year it was a Buddha statue. Like a 50-pound Buddha statue.
50 pounds. What does he deserve to be thrown out like that?
Yeah, it made for some good photos. I think someone took it home to their garden.
Oh, yeah.
And we also found last year a boat, not only a abandoned boat, but the boat was full of trash itself.
Wow.
And so that's when we call in the state parks to help us haul that out. But just massive items. We always find a lot of tires and heavy trash that without these coordinated efforts they would never be removed. And so that's why these cleanups are very important, and that they happen on a consistent basis.
You mentioned the cities. Tell me how the cities and county are involved with this, because obviously as many volunteers as you have, which is impressive across the Monterey Bay, 800, they might not all have pickup trucks that can fit massive items that you're finding, like a boat. How does the hauling and sorting happen with those people's help or those organizations, entities?
Mm-hmm. So we work with local jurisdictions, so city, counties, and also private haul away services to make sure that the trash and recycling is hauled away to their appropriate places afterwards. We also work with the different local jurisdictions. They support us in terms of sponsorships, and so they're making sure that we are compensated for the massive amount of time it takes to organize this event. And so we're really, really grateful for those partnerships. And without them, this day wouldn't be possible.
We think of Monterey Bay as all about beaches, but we do have quite a few waterways. We have rivers. We have San Lorenzo and the Carmel and the Salinas. Anyway, those are the main ones. I probably missed an important one. Tell me about what happens along some of those waterways with cleanup efforts. They're kind of hard probably to get at because of the growth of vegetation and just because maybe there's rocks in the way. How do you get people in those spaces?
General access, depending on the site, it is hard. And so that's why we are really pushing volunteers to our river sites, because they need the most love this time for the cleanup. And rivers are also difficult because they carry the trash down. So no matter where the trash ends up, it ends up in a river eventually, and then eventually in the ocean. And so we do see a lot of accumulation, particularly of the larger items in the rivers or in the river mouths as they connect to the ocean. So they're particularly tricky, and that's where we use a lot of our haul away services so that they can haul away those big items.
Right, like mattresses and things. And because we have such a housing crisis, we have people living unhoused, and often they don't have trash pickup, so they leave whatever it was when they have to leave their temporary shelter. Mm-hmm. They leave it there, and through no fault of their own, because they don't have shelter, they leave their broken tents and stuff. So I imagine that's a big part of rivers cleanup, and hopefully not a part of just sweeping the homeless encampments and not having anywhere to go. You want to take care of the people as well. I imagine that's part of the finesse of this.
Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. And doing outreach to the public so that we can educate them about this problem we have kind of all over California, and that to not fault the people who are living on the river or without a home, but to make them understand it's a systemic problem, and that many of these populations are actually helping on the cleanups themselves. And so, it's a delicate issue that we always try to treat fairly and make sure that our volunteers are also educated about the more systemic problem that's needed to solve.
Yeah, I mean, if you're living unhoused, you don't have trash pickup, so exactly. you're left with a problem right there. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that that's something you guys think about. The Save Our Shores Coastal Cleanup is happening Saturday from 9 to noon. Unfortunately, a couple of times I had great intentions and missed it because I didn't get out there early enough. So I imagine people should get there a little before 9 so they can suit up and get the orientation. Will there be people from Save Our Shores and various city entities giving out directions? How does the logistics work besides showing up with your best intentions and your work boots on and maybe sunscreen?
Yes, sunscreen, water, closed-toed shoes. That's what we recommend people bring. But each site has a site leader who has gone through site leader training with us. So they have been well-trained on how to run a cleanup. Many of them have been running being a site lead for many years, and how to handle safety issues and all of that. And so that key person will be obvious once you get to the site. They might even contact you beforehand and really explain the logistics of how the cleanup will work. But once you get there, you'll see it's pretty straightforward. But the site leaders, yes, are well trained by our own staff.
I often see people with metal detectors, and I think maybe they'll also pick up metal trash while they're at it. It's a good thing to do. Hopefully. I mean, I imagine your goal is not just to do this once a year, but to instill in people kind of an ethos of anytime you're at the beach, bring a bag.
Exactly. Yep. Picking up and telling their friends and family why it's important to not litter. And then hopefully we get them as volunteers back again. We're doing over 200 beach cleanups each year. So we're always out on the beaches and rivers of both Santa Cruz and Monterey County. Just involving them more in our work is something we also hope to do.
Now, you also do a lot of education about wildlife, because the interaction of wildlife and garbage is quite a tragic thing for the most part. I'll never forget being on a fishing boat and catching a pelican. It was the worst thing in my life. I was a kid. We had to disentangle it and put it back in the water. But I've seen pictures of albatross and other birds that died with their stomachs full of trash. Is that something you guys have seen in your travels? Because there's also dead birds and they might have died that way. Is that an educational experience for people in a sad way? But like what not to do?
Yeah, it could be. And fortunately, we necessarily haven't found the stomach full of trash like in other areas of the world where we've seen those really graphic, unfortunate images. But we certainly, because we're out on the beaches a lot, we see a lot of issues and wildlife strandings, and we're always calling the appropriate offices to come in and take the data on what animal it was, its health, and kind of the outcome, and go and rescue that animal if possible.
There's a lot of heroes out there. The Marine Mammal Center, I want to give a
Exactly.
shout out to, because so often people don't know who to call, but they call them and they'll come and assess the animal and see if they can save it. There's also heroes that go out and disentangle whales from netting and other objects like ropes that get stuck on them that people have thrown out. I don't know if you know anybody in that organization, but their videos are so heartening because somehow it seems like the whale wants to cooperate. They
Yeah.
even get in the water, which I would be scared about, but they do.
Yeah, those are some really, really powerful images. But yeah, whale entanglements is a real issue, particularly in Monterey, because we have a lot of whale and a really robust fishing industry. So with the crab pots and the lines there, and just we've learned to live together, both the whales and us as human beings, and so those management efforts continue to get better and stronger. And I know the state of California is looking to implement more measures to protect more whales.
Yes, a big concern, and a big part of the industry here is whale watching. People want to go see them in their natural habitat, and they don't want to see them drowning from being stuck to a crab pot. So I'm glad to hear there's movement on that particular problem. So any last thoughts as we let you go about your evening? I know you're a busy person getting ready for Saturday's coastal cleanup all around the Monterey Bay. Katie Rogers, any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
So one fun twist that will be happening this year that I forgot to mention before is that it's the world's first trasher hunt. So the California Coastal Commission has put together this theme for this year, and so there will be hidden treasure chests at one site in Santa Cruz County and one site in Monterey County, and the volunteer who finds the chest will win a prize. So we're really excited for this year and the competition that will ensue.
It's a buried treasure chest?
Yes. Yeah, it's a cute little wooden treasure chest. Just another way to encourage volunteers to get out there. And we're really excited to work with our residents here in Monterey Bay and to make our bay a healthier bay for all.
Well, on behalf of K-Squid, the squid will thank you, I'm sure, as well as the whales and everybody else. So thanks for what you do, and thanks to all the volunteers that'll be coming out Saturday and cleaning up the beaches on Coastal Cleanup.